What are, in your opinion, the top 2 statewide issues that you would like to see state government address in the next legislative session that you feel are important enough, as well as things that can get done? And how would they get done with your leadership?
I'm afraid of boring everybody, but we have to get the budget in hand and we have to get the debt situation in hand, because New York State, if you look at debtors in America, 7 of the 10 largest public debtors are in New York State. New York State, New York City, Triborough Bridge Authority, I rattle them off, Nassau County, the Dormitory Authority, ESDC. So New York State carries enormous debt. But the only constitutional debt approved by the voters is about $4.5 billion out of nearly $100 billion in state debt if you count up the authorities. So we have to get that under hand. It includes authority reform, it includes no more backdoor borrowing, and it includes a lot of discipline. That will help us. I mean, just think, our debt service is billions of dollars every year. We could be using that to close the gaps in the budget. So we have to get the budget in hand. The way to do that is not just cut, cut, cut. There's 2 sides to the budget. There's the revenue side, and I favor a truly progressive graduated income tax. We don't have it now. And to see the press and public and politicians run from the so-called millionaires tax, which is not a tax on millionaires. It's not a tax on somebody whose net worth is $1 million. It's a tax on people whose taxable annual income exceeds $1 million. Should they pay another $3,000 or $4,000 a year in state taxes? My heart bleeds for them, okay? If you have over $1 million in taxable income. So we have to get the fiscal in order.
30 seconds left.
And that will allow us to pursue my second priority: education, education, and education. And we promised to fund the campaign for fiscal equity. Last year, I'm very proud, we appropriated an additional $522 million to New York City. This year, an additional $643 million to New York City, only to find Mayor Bloomberg was going to cut school budgets, thus breaking faith. We fought that. He backed off. We have to make sure the state's fiscal health is there so we can continue to meet those expected payments under the campaign for fiscal equity, so our future is secure when our children and our grandchildren have a solid education and our schools are up to snuff in New York City.
Thank you. Mr. Squadron, the same question. You'll have 2 minutes to provide an answer as well. What are your top 2?
This is an easier question. Yes. What New York State needs to do. The two things New York State needs to do, I'll tell you, I think there are 4, but we need to reform the way Albany works, because everything else is pie in the sky if we do it. But here's the reason. The reason we need to do it, and I've been talking about this throughout this campaign, is so that we can deliver results in the neighborhoods in this district across the city that are changing so quickly. Housing affordability is vanishing. We need to repeal vacancy and luxury decontrol. These are policies that will end affordability as we know it over time in the city. We need to repeal those policies immediately. We need to save the affordable rentals we have in the city so that we can really talk about how affordability, how diversity, how folks like my grandfather, folks like teachers and firefighters and cops and city workers will have the opportunity to make their lives in this city in this century. It's incredibly important. We need community-based development. You know, the state can get involved in this. The state can help spur and create incentives for community-based plans so that we have a much more open community-based development process instead of a developer-based development process. It's incredibly, incredibly important as global forces start, even in neighborhoods across this district, you know, which, though being so close to the center of the city, felt for a long time like entities unto themselves, but are now being buffeted by global development forces, and we need to have communities have a stronger say. Wow, this is brutal. 30 seconds on this. Education is incredibly important. I've talked about the fact that it's personally important to me, that I've worked in it. I've put out a detailed education plan, so I guess I'm going to have to ask you to go to the website to read it. But it talks about how to get communities involved in the process, how to get the state education department beyond holding back local school districts, which I think they do, using the same standardized tests, high-stakes standardized tests they've used for a long time. Districts, frankly, which is a dangerous thing to talk about, something we have to talk about. Today's districts were designed around politics of a generation ago in many cases. We need to talk about that. We need to fully fund education, including new schools. You know, we have some great successful schools in this district that are at risk of collapsing under their own weight. They've become so successful, and when that happens, you start to lose families who have the choice to leave. And then there's civil rights, which is equally
Mr.
important.
Squadron,
But sorry,
thank you.
thank you, Dick.
Okay.